What's good, everyone? It's your boy Nati again with another video for the channel. Welcome back to DMV Sports Zone. And today's video is supposed to be a reaction to the Cam Newton to the Patriots move, and also I'm supposed to give you guys a deeper look into some available free agent options for the Washington Redskins at the receiver position. But I've decided to move that video back to early next week, after the long July 4th weekend, to kind of talk about the biggest issue involving any one of our professional sports teams right now, and arguably the biggest issue in all of sports in the raging Washington Redskins name debate. And, a couple of people asked me for my thoughts on this and thought I might as well share. Let me preface this by saying, I'm a diehard Washington Redskins fan. Fandom for the team just runs through the family, really. Like, my dad and some of my uncles and aunts emigrated to the country in the late 80s and 90s, and they immigrated to this area, and that was when the Washington Redskins, like, they were the talk of the town, right? Like, everybody was talking about them. That was the glory years, right? They were winning consistently. They were winning Super Bowls, and my entire family rallied around the team, right? Like, upon immigrating to the country, and ultimately that led to my fandom, right, growing up. And I have a bunch of Redskins merchandise, like, all over my house. My parents put their hard-earned money into that merchandise and in paying for it, every time I requested it for Christmas or just for birthdays and stuff. And then, like, in 2013, when I think in, like, my lifetime, for the first time in, like, my sort of years of fandom for the team, the Redskins name debate sort of, like, popped up. And, I remember at the time, at 13 years old, I was thinking, how dare they? How dare people, like, attack my team? I mean, we didn't really win much that season. I think we also just won 3 games, but I remember thinking, like, how dare people attack my team? Like, it was more than just attacking my team. Like, if you attack my team, you attack me personally. And that's what I was thinking, as a younger kid. And, I've pretty much, like, softened my stance over the last couple of years, but to now where I'm kind of indifferent on the issue. And um, just last night, actually, Pedro Smith was pretty much, like, on top of things. Like, he's a really good Redskins YouTuber that you guys should look into. But he's pretty much on top of things when covering this last night. But FedEx, the company that pretty much owns the naming rights of the Washington Redskins home stadium in Landover, Maryland, I think through 2025, basically asked the team to change the name. And even in their message, they didn't even mention, like, Redskins. Like, they just said, we request that the team in Washington changes their name. And that, I mean, to go from pretty much, being the name of the stadium that the Redskins play in to ultimately sending, like, a sort of memo saying, like, the team in Washington, please change your name. Like, it's incredible. And what's even more incredible is that the CEO of FedEx, like, he owns 10% of, like, the Redskins, right? Like, he's a minority owner in the Redskins. And I mean, that was a monumental step. And then, we heard about, I remember last night, people were talking about Nike. And if you go on the website and you look up, NFL jerseys and stuff, and you type in Redskins, like, nothing will pop up. Like, they took down all the Redskins merchandise. And right now it's pretty much all 31 teams, 32 teams minus the Redskins. And that was another step. And, just today, the Redskins announced, Dan Snyder announced, and Ron Rivera announced as well, that they were going to conduct a review of the Redskins name and sort of, see where things go from there. And I will say this, Stephen A. Smith mentioned this on First Take, but a review doesn't necessarily mean that the Redskins name will change. I think they've conducted reviews in the past, and that's just, the name obviously hasn't changed and stuff. And but there is, like, reports coming out, like Mike Jones and some other, like, Redskins insiders are pretty much saying, like, this might be the tip of the iceberg. Like, the name might ultimately change. And now I just wanted to give, like, my thoughts. Like, again, I am a diehard Redskins fan, and I've been one, like, my entire life. And I've suffered through losing, and and also the debate around the name and stuff like that. And I oftentimes say this, like, Redskins fans are the most loyal fans, I think, in the NFL, if not all of sports, man. Like, to deal with, like, the losing and the name change, it's just a lot. But I really think this might be the tip of the iceberg. I really think, like, at this point, this point greater than any other point, like, in my lifetime, I think the Redskins name has a huge possibility of changing. Like, they're sort of laying the groundwork for that, and we're in this sort of time of social change and stuff, and it might happen. And also at this point, like I said earlier, I softened my stance. Like, if the Redskins name changes, it changes. Like, I've realized as I've gotten older and wiser, like, my allegiance to the team is more so an allegiance to my area, my home area, and also the sport, right? So if the Redskins decide to change their name to the Red Tails, which is actually kind of a good name, we'll see, or the Red Hawks, right? Or even the Warriors. Like, for me, that's the Warriors specifically will take a long time for me to get used to, just because I hate like what the Golden State Warriors did to basketball. But that's an issue for another day, and I might mention that on the channel later. We'll see. But if it ultimately becomes the Warriors, like, there will be an adjustment time, right? We kind of experience, well, not me personally, but a lot of DMV sports fans experienced that with the Bullets changing their names to Wizards and stuff. But ultimately, I think most fans got over, and maybe that might happen with Redskins fans. And I know there are a lot of Redskins fans out there, a lot of diehard Redskins fans who, want the name to stay the same, and because it's pretty much all they know. But at this point, I think what's best to sort of resolve this whole situation is have like a nationwide vote, where Native Americans can sort of say whether or not they're for or against the name. And I know there have been polls, like the Washington Post poll from 2016, saying 9 out of 10 Native Americans aren't offended. There's also been polls from like Berkeley and other universities where it's actually pretty split in terms of like opinion among Native Americans about the name and stuff. And I'm not here to say like which one is right, which one is wrong. I just I want a resolution to this whole issue, and I think DMV sports fans deserve. I think everybody really deserves a resolution to this issue, particularly like Native Americans and on a second tier level, I guess, DMV sports fans. And because even if just a few Native Americans are offended by the name, I think that should probably be enough for the name to ultimately change. It's gonna be interesting to see how this whole thing unfolds, and it'll definitely be an interesting summer. It was already an interesting summer with the whole regime change with Ron Rivera manning the head coaching position now and Bruce Allen being out and stuff. But with Dan Snyder possibly softening his stance about the Redskins name, we'll see. But that's all I got for today's video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It would be much appreciated. Also hit that notification bell while you're at it. And again, this will be interesting. I'll definitely stay tuned to everything going on. But yeah, peace.